I always think that life is just full of surprises, and sometimes some of them are extraordinarily good and some of them are extraordinarily bad. And one of our family members, named Howard, unfortunately had a shoulder problem. Within 18 months, he was like Stephen Hawking, pretty much. He was in a chariot. It was motor controlled, and he could move his arms and his head, and he could talk. But gradually he was losing control of his arms and fingers, and he was losing the ability to talk without great effort. So the NHS provided him with a box. It looked like it had been made for a submarine about 1950. You hit the keys, it said a word. There was no memory. It was hot. You had to plug it into the wall. There was no battery. It was heavy. It hurt his legs. And I just knew we could do better than this. So the obvious thing, I bought an iPad. I bought an articulated arm, and for free I got a speech synthesizer, downloaded it, and then I purchased a more sophisticated one. And I put it onto his wheelchair so that he could watch TV, listen to the radio, surf the net, do his email, do Facebook. Best of all, he could press the keys, record whole sentences, and do actually far better than Stephen Hawking. He'd not got that old DEC synthesizer that makes him sound like a robot. Now that's Stephen's hallmark. It was much more natural. But the key innovation I came up with was to mount 2 loudspeakers either side of his head. And here is the reason why. If you hold an iPad and you tap the keys and it speaks, everybody looks at the iPad. When I have a conversation with you, I need eye contact. I need to see your face. He was craving for people to look at him and not look at the iPad. Once the voice came out of his head, people looked at him and not the iPad. And so we put him in this situation. And when I was engineering around him, I actually engineered him, all of this with him in the chair. I was clamping things on and we were talking and we were having a little bit of fun. And I related to him a story from 15 years before, when I had helped a gentleman in a wheelchair, when we had to put a full-size PC underneath his seat with a couple of car batteries. That's how far back. He had a GPS unit, which involved rather a large antenna sticking up at the back. And I came across something that I find hard to believe. But people in wheelchairs suffer a huge amount of abuse when they're out in public on their own. I could not believe it. And he made a request for a red button. And I couldn't believe his request, but it turned out to be incredibly humorous. And so when I told the story, Howard requested a red button. So I put him a red button on his wheelchair. And when confronted with somebody who was pretty awful, all he had to do was hit the red button, and his synthesizer just said, "Fuck you." How wonderful. So there's this fully disabled human being in a fit of frustration and annoyance hits the red button. I sometimes wonder if I need a red button. Anyway, we progressed this from being very agile-handed to the point where he was losing control, and I was in the middle of engineering a muscle twitch from actually his hands, but it was going to progress to his face like Stephen. And unfortunately he died. But what was remarkable about all of this was when Howard went in to Adam Brooks Hospital with what I had built, which wasn't rocket science. It was only going down to the store and buying bits and going onto the internet and getting a synthesizer and a few nuts and bolts and a little bit of innovation. They had never seen anything like it. And I was astonished. And I just think that sometimes people in the health system need to get out more. I think overriding sadness, terrific pity for the man, but a great admiration for a human being in such a terrible state who got such great courage. He made me feel quite humble. It was an honour to help the man. It was really a privilege.